Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we're going to be talking about some updates to the generative AI stuff because we got a lot going on that I wanted to bring to your attentions just for discussion. And it's actually, I don't know, it's looking pretty good, but in general, there's some hopeful stuff going on. We just got to keep on going. And I can say for certain that all of the art that I continue to see going forward, whether it is visual or written or auditory, I'm always so excited to see so much art. And in the last, I feel like I've put in much more of an effort to find more artists in the last, little while. Not only because I started drawing, in 2022. So I'm like, show me some ideas of like how I can of things I can do. And I'm just like, ooh. So I'm paying much more attention to it because of that. But also I followed many more accounts in general that are artists so that I'm seeing more art in general. And it's been nice. It's been exciting. But we're seeing things, and I think it's important to keep the discussions up, to keep the information on the top so that you can like see the developments, see what's going on, and to not be brought down by the AI bros when they come around, because like I get them. I obviously, with my backlog of generative AI, the AI bros come up, and one of the first things that they always try to do to you is insult you if you're creative because they want to bring your spirit down. And it's like, okay, buddy, I'm not the one that's jealous of anybody that can actually sit down and discipline themselves in order to create. Like, you're discovering thoughts. I've been thinking for 50 years. So we're not the same. But congratulations. I hope you continue to think in the cases that you are thinking. In the cases that you aren't, you've already been dismissed. But so we're going to get into this discussions of what's going on. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Lemoy, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a short story using that prompt, and on the first Monday video of the month, we bask in your creativity. The second way to be featured is through the Fresh Meat feature, where if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out, if you submit it, your first chapter and your cover, it'll be read here on the channel to hopefully help more readers find your work, because I promise you, your reader is out there, whether it is me, whether it is Becky, whether it is Gerald, whether it is anybody that just hasn't discovered you yet. Your idea just got to have time to percolate, to get shared, and it is your time to shine to the best of the abilities that I have to share your work. So thank you for trusting me with it. The third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books, including your local library upon request. My newest novel, Body More Zero, is going to be coming out in October, featuring these fine gentlemen over here. I'm so excited to share them. Arcs coming soon. I keep saying that. I'm staring the arc barrel in the face right now. I'm currently on the fence of like, do I send out an ARC audiobook at the same time as the ARC ebook? That's mostly what's holding me up right now. But that's, by the time this video goes up, we'll be having a decision made. With that said, I hope you enjoy, and let's get into the topic. We got some business to attend. Some of these will go by much faster than others. We do have a handful of articles, so we're going to try and be reasonable with time here today. I know, not a strong suit of mine. We need to talk about Kevin was a long one, but I hope you enjoyed it. That was a fun book to, fun might not be the right word for what that book is, but it was an excellent book. Anyway, starting off here with Reed Southern, there is a race to figure out how to create high quality synthetic data to feed the maw of AI, which in most instances is like creating a copy of a copy of a copy ad infinitum. It also is a lot of data laundering and obfuscating copyrighted sources. What they're trying to do is to take data that they've already stolen from like all of us on the internet, to put it into the generative AI to generate stuff, and then put the generated stuff back into the generative AI to try to teach the generative AI off of its own slop. And so it's basically, and it is slop because it gets confused. I have a follow-up for this that says they cannot feed it synthetic data because it messes it up. We'll get there. But they're human centipeding the generative AI. So again, it shows you that the only way for it to work is to take user data, to steal your data, your thought, the way that you create. And that is right here with Jathan Shadowski. The Hasberg AI theory is yet again validated, this time in a new paper in Nature. Training large language models on the data created by other models on AI systems trained on synthetic data, causes irreversible defects in the resulting models. So I'll link all of these places in the description down below so you can read anything at your leisure that I also don't fully cover, and so that you can also check any of my sources. But so this is from Nature. And in the abstract, Stable Diffusion Revolutionizing Image Creation from the Descriptive Text, GPT-2, 3, and 4, demonstrated high performance across a variety of language tasks. ChatGPT introduced such language models to the public. Now it is clear that generative artificial intelligence, such as large language models, is here to stay and will substantially change the ecosystem of online texts and images. Here we consider what may happen to GPT once LLMs contribute much of the text found online. We find that indiscriminate use of models-generated content in the training causes irreversible defects in the resulting models, in which the tails of the original content distribution disappear. We refer to this effect as the model collapse and show that it can occur in LLMs as well as variational autoencoders and Gaussian mixture models. We build theoretical intuitions behind the phenomena and portrayals its ubiquity among all learned generative models. We demonstrate that it must be taken seriously if we are going to sustain the benefit of training from large-scale data scrape from the web. Indeed, the value of data collected about genuine human interactions with systems will be increasingly valuable in the presence of LLM-generated content and data crawled from the internet. So, basically feeding it its own stuff, it kind of breaks it, and human-made content is valuable. I said in, I think, one of the previous videos, certain places had been hiring poets and writers and different types of creative people to create content specifically to feed into these systems. It doesn't matter because they're already stealing, and your data, your identity, what you do is what it is selling through these systems. It is not selling what it creates. It is selling what you created and what it is remixing, and it is useless without you. It is not going to be able to train on itself, or it will collapse and break. Nick St. Pierre admits AI is inherently uncontrollable and that traditional methods are better if you want control. At the same time, he's trying to tell you that the lack of control is potentially more important for making art. He's coming to terms with AI's limitations by shilling even harder. I can tell you, as somebody who gets commissions all the time, like as much as I can, honestly, if I would not have a drug problem if I was rich. I would not have any kind of substance abuse problems. I would have constantly purchasing high quality commissions problems, getting like, let's make my characters and my worlds super real as freaking possible can be. So that's where my weakness is. But it is not a desire to not be able to control what you're trying to make. Like, that is the point of being able to draw. That's one of the reasons I started drawing too, was so that I could try to create my characters. And having that utmost control is kind of what's important to telling the story, to creating the characters you're trying to do, to creating the images or styles or illustrations that you're trying to do, to get down to what you want to do. And especially with character work or with scenic work. I don't want to just say character work because I mostly focus on character work, but to get those scenes specifically to how you see them. Like, if you think of George Alexopoulos's work, as I've mentioned in previous videos where we talked about the books that he's worked on, like Mary Sue and The Ghost of the Badlands, the only way to get the level of attention is to have that control to draw what you want to draw. If you look at some of the drawings that I shared in a previous video of Casey and Ralph's development, as I was talking to the commission artists, they were only able to be developed as the artists took what I said and then created it and put it out there. And oh my gosh, I love working with Sam and Monty and Anissa so much, because when I work with Anissa, and the backdrop on this image, or on my background here, let me see if I can get rid of stuff enough for you to see. This right here happened because of the description that I was able to give Anissa, and she was able to transpose my words, my description, my character into an image that captured Ralph. And that includes, you know, you got that you don't summon the devil by chance. The broken mirror is so important. The shapes of his body and how they are so specific to that. The glowing blue eyes, the feather, the necklace, the ring, like all of it is so specific that you need to have the control of to make that person. I know he's got a little bit more color in this than he has ended up with in the end, but like the control is imperative to design. And it is insane to be like, with AI, control is often emphasized as a crucial element, but relinquishing some control is equal, if not more important. You're being sold piss and being told that it'll bring your hair back, that it will make you pregnant, that it'll cure your diabetes. That's actually inside of Stiff, a nonfiction book I read last year that was about what societies have done with bodies over the centuries traditionally. And there is a chapter about medicinal cannibalism. And it said that in the Chinese medical books, drinking piss from a public latrine was given as the treatment for diabetes. Anyway, AI stands out as a new medium precisely because it can generate infinite variations on nearly any idea. If you wanted total and complete control over every single detail, traditional methods might be more suitable, which means if you want to be able to create consistency, if you want to be able to create something specific, do it. You know, the best test that I have had for this garbage for a long time is that it can't create Majima. He is so specific. It can't create Kiryu either. Like, Kiryu's face is so specific. It can throw at you a random Yakuza-style man. It cannot throw at you Goromi. It just can't. It doesn't know how to do that. And if you want a consistent image of Goromi, it can't. An artist can, though. Like, it's so stupid. You're playing dice, especially if they start charging you. Then this just becomes image gambling. It's so dumb. I don't want to make you feel bad if you're an AI, bro. You can come to the other side and see that you have been scammed. Some people don't want to believe that they've been scammed. They've invested their entire identity in these scams. But it's okay. You can come back. There is a point of coming back. We want you over here if you want to admit that it's garbage. Adding, appalling, all creators must have the right to decide if their work is used in AI development. Unethical AI training like this is exploitation, plain and simple. And we've also got big YouTuber Jacksepticeye talking about how his videos are among some of the most stolen to train generative AI. Proof News has found materials from YouTubers megastars including Mr. Beast, Marquise Brownlee, Jacksepticeye, and PewDiePie. Some of the materials used to train AI also prompted conspiracies such as Flat Earth series. And it shows Jacksepticeye is in there 491 times. This was also listed here on Wired.com. Apple, Nvidia, Anthropic use thousands of swiped YouTube videos to train AI, which I wonder if that violates YouTube's policy of not stealing copyrighted material / putting copyrighted material on. Because, like, we have to mark copyright items on our profiles when we update, and we get copyright strikes if we don't. So, like, stuff being taken like this, tech companies are, and it's not like they don't know. They're all tech companies that are often all connected to Silicon Valley. So they know. They're just stealing from each other and hoping they can get away with it. Tech companies are turning to controversial tactics to feed their data-hungry artificial intelligence models vacuumed up books, websites, photos, and social media posts, often unbeknownst to the creator. AI companies are generally secretive about their sources of data training data, but an investigator by Proof News found found some of the wealthiest AI companies in the world have used materials from thousands of YouTube videos to train AI. Companies did so despite YouTube's rules against harvesting materials from the platform without permission. So that sounds like a lawsuit. Our investigation found that subtitles from 173,536 YouTube videos siphoned from more than 48,000 channels were used by Silicon Valley heavyweights, including Anthropic, Nvidia, Apple, and Salesforce. I wonder if Google is going to be interested enough to be like, let's go. We got money to be made in the court. The dataset, called YouTube Subtitles, contains videos transcript from educational and online learning channels like Khan Academy, MIT, and Harvard. I wonder if they all then have cases for damages. The Wall Street Journal, NPR, and BBC also had their videos used to train AI, as did The Late Night Show with Stephen Colbert, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and Jimmy Kimmel Live. Proof News also found materials from YouTubers. I read that already. Proof News created a tool to search for YouTubers in the YouTube AI training set. No one came to me and said, we would like to use this, said David Pakman, host of The David Pakman Show, a left-leaning political channel with more than 2 million subscribers and more than 2 million views. Nearly 160 of his videos were swept up into the YouTube Subtitles training dataset. This is my livelihood. I put time, resources, money, staff time into creating this content, Pakman said. There's really no shortage of work. It's theft. David Wixus, the CEO of Nebula's streaming service, partially owned by its creators, some of whom have had their work taken from YouTube to train AI. Wickus said it's disrespectful to use creators' work without their consent, especially since studios may use generative AI to replace many of the artists along the way. Will this be used to exploit and harm artists? Yes, absolutely, Wickus said. Representatives at Uther AI, the creators of the dataset, did not respond to requests to comment on Proof's findings, including allegations that videos were used without permission. The company's website states its overall goal is to lower the barriers to AI development to those outside of the gilded walls of big tech, and has historically provided access to cutting-edge AI technologies by training and releasing models. They're like, look, we want to give to the poors by taking to the poors and making more people poor by stealing other people's livelihoods and work. Like, YouTube Subtitles does not include video imagery, but consists of plain text video subtitles, often along with translations into other languages, including Japanese, German, and Arabic. According to a research paper published by Uther AI, the dataset is part of a compilation of nonprofit releases called The Pile. The developers of The Pile included materials from not just YouTube, but also from European Parliament, English Wikipedia, and a trove of Iran Corporation employee emails that were released as part of the federal investigation into the firm. Most of the Pile's datasets are accessible and open for anyone on the internet with enough space and computing power to access them. Academics and other developers outside of big tech made use of the datasets, but they weren't the only ones. Apple, Nvidia, and Salesforce, companies valued in the hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars, described their research papers and posts how they used a Pile to train AI. The Pile includes a very small subset of YouTube subtitles. Jennifer Martinez, a spokesperson for Anthropic, said in a statement confirming the use of the Pile, YouTube's terms cover direct use of its platform, which is distinct from its use of the Pile dataset. On one point about potential violations of YouTube terms of service, we have to refer to the Pile authors. You're not going to listen to the people you're stealing from. You're going to listen to the people who stole and then repackaged it so you could use it and take... It's just thieves. It's just the thieves covering for themselves. Salesforce later released the same AI model in public use in 2022, and it has since been downloaded at least 86,000 times, according to the Hugging Face page. In their research paper, Salesforce developers flagged that the Pile also contained profanity as well as biases against gender and certain religious groups, and warned that it could lead to vulnerabilities and safety concerns. Proof News found thousands of examples of profanity in YouTube subtitles, as well as instances of racial and gender slurs. So Salesforce's representatives did not respond to the question about safety concerns. You know, when you use real people, number one, It's funny because it's something that doesn't really get considered into the conversation, period, especially if you're using fictional materials where you're going to have maybe characters that are unscrupulous, that are going to have maybe characters that say uncouth things or do uncouth things. It's going to go in there and that's going to be absorbed. And I don't know if the bias counts just opinions of characters or opinions of people that maybe you don't like, or if it's like, well, there are just like more opinions in this one way that are absorbed than in this other way. But like, there's no getting around it. You know what one of the very, very common tropes / uses in fiction is? Constantly abusing, specifically sexually assaulting females. So like, if you put that in there, and if you're in fiction, sexual assault is pretty much constant. If you look at foreign fiction, if you look at dark romance, sexual assault is used as a form of flirting, basically. And so you're going to get a lot of that in there. And then it depends on the type of content. But you're going to have unscrupulous things because that's also just part of storytelling. That is often just part of storytelling. AI companies compete against each other in part by producing high-quality data, said Jai Vipra, the AI policy researcher at CyberBricks fellow at Fundesca Getúlio Vargas Law School in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It's one of the reasons companies keep sources of data close to the vest, also because they're stealing. Earlier this year, the New York Times reported that Google, which owns YouTube, tapped videos on its platform for text to train its models. In response, spokesman told the paper that it was permitted under agreements with YouTube's creators. The Times investigator also found OpenAI used YouTube videos without authorization. I mean, at this point, they're just scraping literally because the people that have spoken on this, that run in these companies, have all said publicly available data, which means they've scraped anything that you can just find, which even in some cases includes behind paywalls or behind passwords, private data, stuff on private profiles. It's not that much of a secret just how far-reaching it all is. And they're just all going, well, we can do it, but you're not allowed to do it. And then they share the data sets anyway. So, like, we can only hope they start suing each other for stealing from each other because they're all doing the same race to the moon at this point at our expense, at artists' expense. Lauren Walsh over here at OtakaCon. Nearly every expert in any creative field this has been forced into has said this from the beginning. But everyone wanted to listen to the tech bros drinking the Kool-Aid, calling those experts Luddites that refuse to change. The damage this has done to our industry is also unparalleled. And over here with Gary Marcus, incredibly damning new study on Gen AI from Upwork via Balder Bajarson. Nearly half, 74% of workers using AI says they have no idea how to achieve the productivity gains their employers expect. Over 3 in 4, 77, say AI tools have decreased their productivity and added to their workload in at least one way. Says Barnason, it's quite unusual for a study like this on a new office tool, roughly 2 years after the tool. ChatGPT exploded into people's workplaces to return such a resounding negative sentiment. Many on X may love ChatGPT for work, but much on the outside world feel quite differently. Honestly, I would rather just be doing stuff. You only hurt yourself. Even with using the generator to like write an email to respond to people, you are losing out on those people skills that you do need to have. Over here at Los Angeles Times, as AI is embraced, what happens to the artists whose work was stolen to build it? Amid the hype surrounding Apple's new deal with OpenAI, one issue has been largely papered over. The AI company's foundational models are and have always been built atop the theft of creative professional arts. Adobe is also finding this out as they are losing their customer base because their customer base were the artists that they have told to get bent. The arrangement with Apple isn't the only news from OpenAI. Among recent updates and controversies, including high-level defections, last month, the company quietly announced Media Manager scheduled for release in 2025, a tool purportedly designed to allow creators and content owners to control how their work is used. Media Manager is really a shameless attempt to evade responsibility for the theft of artists' intellectual property that OpenAI is already profiting from. OpenAI says this tool would allow creators to identify their work and choose whether to exclude it from AI training process. But this does nothing to address the fact that the company built its foundational model using authors and other creators' works without consent, compensation, or control over how OpenAI users will be able to imitate the artist's style to create new works. As it's described, Media Managers puts the burden on the creators to protect their work and fails to address the company's past legal and ethical transgressions. This overture is like having your valuables stolen from your home and then hearing the thief say, "Don't worry, I'll give you a chance to opt out of it in the future burglaries next year." Also, the fact that it's like, well, it's up to you to make sure that I don't steal your stuff. It's like, it's up to you to make sure I don't victimize you. And if I do, shame on you. I'm not the problem here. Writers, artists, journalists, and other creative workers have consistently asked that OpenAI and other generative AI companies obtain creators' consent before using their work to train artificial intelligence products, and that the organization refrain from using works without express permission. Last July, more than 16,000 authors signed a letter to leading AI companies demanding that the businesses obtain permission and pay for the work that they use to train their AI. Yet OpenAI continues to trample on artists' rights and rebuff their appeals, as we saw recently in the launch of ChatGPT Audio Assistant with a voice similar to Scarlett Johansson, despite the actor's clear and repeated refusal. Obviously, in a lot of cases, consent or, discussion of consent is actually just a formality, and a lot of people really don't freaking care if you consent. They're just going to say it because they're supposed to, but they really don't freaking care. Although Johansson won her battle, OpenAI paused the offending voice from its offering after the actor threatened legal action. The best chance for the wider community of artists is to band together. AI companies' cavalier attitude toward creators' rights and consent extends to people at all levels of fame. Last year, the Authors Guild, along with 17 other plaintiffs, sued OpenAI and Microsoft, demanding that the authors receive what they are due. The suit is ongoing, and other creative professionals and copyright owners have also taken legal action. Among them are a class action filed by visual artists against Stability AI, Runway AI, Midjourney, and DeviantArt, a lawsuit by music publishers against Anthropic for infringement of song lyrics, and suits in the US and UK brought by Getty Images against Stability AI for copyright infringement of photographs. AI companies often argue that it would be impossible for them to license all the content that they need, and that doing so would bring progress to a grinding halt. We don't need to pay you for your work. It would stop. We don't need to pay railroad workers to build the railroads. It would bring progress to a halt. This is simply untrue. OpenAI has signed a succession of licensing agreements with publishers large and small, while the exact terms of these agreements are rarely released to the public. The compensation estimates pale in comparison with the vast outlays for computing powers and energy that the company readily spends. Payments to authors would have minimal effect on AI companies' war chests, but receiving royalties for AI training use would be a meaningful new revenue stream for professionals that are already suffering. Authors' earnings have been in precipitous decline for more than a decade. In 2022, the median annual writing-related income for a small-time writer was just over $20,000, down nearly 50% from 2009. And the data in 2023 looks even more dire. AI-generated books, sometimes listed as written by real authors without the author's permission, flood Amazon, where anyone searching might buy instead of the creative work by the human author that spent months or years writing. This reminds me of the thing I covered in one of my previous videos, where there was a woman who wrote a memoir, and then a bunch of AI generated books ripped off her memoir and were released the same day as her actual memoir, burying her memoir. So this is a problem. Over here with Ed Newton Rex, 32,000 people approximately voted on whether generative AI training on copyrighted content without permission is acceptable. The results are what you expect. 82% say unacceptable. So the majority of people say no. Don't let big AI fool you. Piracy isn't a business model. From The Hill. Ask Midjourney, a popular artificial intelligence image generator, to produce an image of a cartoon sponge, a cartoon 90s family with yellow skin, or a video game plumber, and it'll produce images of SpongeBob SquarePants, The Simpsons, and Mario. This is the result found by AI scientist and author Gary Marcus and film industry concept artist Reed Southern, as well as others who have repeatedly demonstrated that image generators like Midjourney and OpenAI DALL-E can regurgitate near-perfect recreations of scenes from Marvel and Star Wars movies, even when given innocent prompts that do not reference those works explicitly. Is this a copyright infringement? That's the same question raised by New York Times lawsuit against OpenAI and Microsoft, which alleges that the unauthorized use of its journalistic content to train artificial intelligence models. A key fact in the Times complaint is that OpenAI's chatbots are capable of reproducing text nearly verbatim from the publications. On January 8th, OpenAI responded, claiming that while its technology sometimes regurgitates article text, that behavior is a rare bug that was working to solve. Intentionally manipulating our models to regurgitate is not an appropriate use of our technology and is against the terms of use, it continues. The lawsuit against OpenAI highlights a wider concern. When an artificial intelligence product like ChatGPT, DALL-E, or Midjourney reproduces copyrighted content, it's part of a broader pattern of piracy, flouting of the law and advocacy for rules for thee but not for me that has long since been baked into the business model of tech businesses. We have more than 2 decades of experience with these companies, and the results are clear. Piracy only benefits the pirates in the long run, and they won't stop until the lawmakers make them. The Times has drawn parallels between OpenAI and the now 2 decades old story of Napster, but a better analogy is the business models of earlier Uber, Amazon, and Google News. First, disrupt and reshape the markets until the consumer's expectations have all passed the point of no return, using a combination of capital-intensive technology and invasions of existing laws and regulations, whether they be taxi cab and medallion regulations, sales tax collection laws, and copyright. Second, settle lawsuits and use lobbying powers to preserve the advantage that's been obtained. OpenAI has already begun lobbying governments for an exception to the copyright enforcement, claiming that it would be impossible to create products like ChatGPT if it could not rely on copyrighted works going forward. So consider that every time somebody brings up, well, it's not built on stolen work. It could not exist without stealing work. And none of the artists that I know, I'm not saying zero artists because infinitives are always wrong, except for that one. I know, I always have to do the wink and a nod for that one. But infinitives are always wrong. However, majority of artists say, do not steal from me. I would like to get paid. Thanks for my work and what I put into things. Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO, is also basically saying that he can't make his product unless he steals from others. And making this argument, he is breaking one of the most fundamental moral principles: thou shalt not steal. His excuse that he needs to do this in order to innovate. It's not a get out of jail free card. Theft is theft. There are a lot of things where somebody could be like, look, I need to break the law or else I ain't gonna be able to get it done. There's a lot of this. Not an excuse. Altman has built his business model around the assumption that our desire to get the latest shiny new tech product will override our basic moral and legal principles. I know it overrides the scammers that also either want the accolades, to steal the accolades they could never be bothered to work towards, or that think that they can make easy money because they see art and writing as gig work and not as anything meaningful. And I'm sorry, but art is meaningful. Now, there are the separate locations of product, art-like product, and actual art. And that's a conversation for another day. But if you talk to somebody who's all about the art, I mean, even the commercial people, some commercial people are like, I don't freaking care. But if you listen to anybody that really has a feeling towards art, they come alive when they talk about art. And that's one of my favorite things to watch too, is when I see somebody who has a passion for what they do. Look, I'm a little bit of a stereotype, okay? I have certain types of artists that it's just like, if I see them in their element, if I see them looking so just like being their own thing. I like a little bit of a quirky. I am drawn to just the love of art. And so I see it and I just love watching people. I love listening to people talk about their art and what it means and how they go about things and watching people come alive because it's something that makes just and then just they gush. It's obviously I'm short for words right now, but I've mentioned before, and I don't know if it's in any of these videos. I know I've mentioned it on podcasts that I don't think exist anymore, but like art is my life. Like I'm not amazing at any of it. I think my stories are pretty good. I love my characters like so much. And I love getting to talk about art and other people's storytelling. Like we need to talk about Kevin, a great experience because for me, books, storytelling, art of any kind, it's about sharing an experience, about kind of like having your heart touch another person's heart and to leave something behind that you've experienced and then they've reinterpreted. And even when I don't enjoy a book, I don't feel like I've wasted my time in reading that book because I've gotten to get to know somebody else's vision, how somebody else sees the world, how somebody else creates and problem solves when given all of the power. And it gives me a better understanding of at least one other person, even if I don't like the story. And so it's a passion. And I know that it's kind of, a lot of people will go like, that's so loser. Like you don't got anything going on. And it's, I know, but I'm a little bit. I got a little bit of a type where let's not get too personal here. Even regular skeptics like Senator Ted Cruz have said that big tech businesses represent the greatest accumulation of power, specifically market power and monopoly power that the world has ever seen. They behave as if they are completely unaccountable, which they really do. Isn't that one of the big manners of control over society as you have the combination of corporation and state? And what is a lobbyist but corporation going into state? Just saying. OpenAI as well on its own to joining the ranks of Amazon, Uber, and Google in the club of companies skirting the law while the rest of us live by rules that ensure market function. Hard work has dignity and people are paid for it in business. Compete on level playing fields rather than legislators picking winners through their inaction. In a world where the largest content creation businesses in the world, Disney, Nintendo, and the New York Times, have been unable to stop their property from being stolen to the power of another company's products, what power do the individuals have? If SpongeBob isn't safe, how can we be? And especially because Nickelodeon has been fairly hardcore. I'm pretty sure Nintendo has also been pretty hardcore with protecting their copyrights. It is now time for Congress and state legislators, as Vermont is doing with its recent introducing AI liability legislation, to act to make clear that the business models cannot continue. These companies must be held accountable for the harm their products create and that they must pay for what they take from others, just like any other business. Lawmakers must change the incentive for these business models to operate under for good. Then here we also have a list of names of more than 16,000 non-consenting artists allegedly used to train generative AI. Midjourney's leak back in January. This list includes many animators who have received no credit, choice to opt out, or compensation. This list will be down in the comments down below if you would like, or in the description down below if you would like to check it out. And then an article will also be down there to accompany it. We also have a recent update. Rolling Stone's AI music startup Suno fires back at record labels, admits training on copyrighted music. So I think in my last video I mentioned Suno and another music company were being sued by Sony and somebody else for copyright infringement. And now, instead of just being like, no, we didn't do that, they feel so cocky about their position that they're just admitting that, yeah, we stole it, but we're considering it fair use. My guy, I think a lot of you forget what some of the rules of fair use are, which include, does it threaten the current market like the person is being taken from? Is it used as a replacement? If the answer is yes, infringement. Like, it's not that hard. If you're, a lot of people say fair use and then ignore one of the most important things, which is right there in their face. Then we got robots sacked, screenings shut down. A new movement of Luddites is rising up against AI. This is from Ed Newton Rex over there at The Guardian. Earlier this month, a popular lifestyle magazine introduced a new fashion and life editor to its huge social media following. Reem, who was on first glance looked like a 20-something woman who understood both fashion and lifestyle, was proudly announced as an AI-enhanced team member. This is a fake person generated by artificial intelligence under whose name Sherlooks would publish product recommendations. The reaction was entirely predictable: outrage followed by a hastily issued apology. One suspect's Reem may not become a staple of the editorial team. This is just the latest in a long line of walkbacks of exciting AI projects that have been met with fury by the people that they're meant to excite. The Prince Charles Cinema in Soho, London, canceled a screening of an AI-written film in June because the regulars vehemently objected. Lego was pressured to take down a series of AI-generated images that it published on its website. Doctor Who, why would you publish AI-generated images of Lego? Isn't the point of Lego that it's a thing that you do? Like, what is... Doctor Who started experimenting with generative AI, but quickly stopped after a wave of complaints. A company swallows the AI hype, thinks jumping on board will paint it as innovative, and entirely fails to understand the growing anti-AI sentiment taking hold along many of its customers. It's kind of funny. It feels like boomers that don't understand, like very out of touch people. I don't want to say boomers specifically, but it's very out of touch people that are like, of course people would like this. And it's, have you listened to anybody? The only people who are into this are you guys sniffing your own doing this. Behind the backlash is a range of concerns about AI. Most visceral is its impact on human labor. The chief effect of using AI in many of these situations is that it deprives a person of the opportunity to do the same work. Then there is the fact that AI systems are built by exploitation of work of the very people that they're designed to replace, trained on their creative output and without paying them. The technology has a tendency to sexualize women, is used to make deep fakes, has caused tech companies to miss climate change targets, and is not nearly well enough understood for its risks to be mitigated. This has understandably not led to universal adaptation. As Hayao Miyazaki, the director of Studio Ghibli, the world-renowned animation studio, has said, "I am utterly disgusted. I strongly feel that AI is an insult to life itself." I can't disagree with Miyazaki there. Also, it's kind of funny, the tendency to sexualize women, because people are just... I'm going to be real with you here, okay? NEETs are using it and have been using it to generate porn since its inception. Like, that's the point. I don't think it's a secret, considering, Avenue Q's famous song, "The Internet is for Porn," is people have been trying to figure out different ways to make pornography accessible, especially when they are unable to acquire it themselves. Especially when they can do revenge porn of a girl who told them no. Especially when they might be creeps that would like to make some other types of unlawful things. Some members of the anti-AI movement have reclaimed the name Luddite. I come from tech circles where Luddite is considered an insult, but this new movement is proud of the designation. As Brian Merchant, author of Blood in the Machine, points out, the original Luddite did not immediately turn to rebellion. They sought dialogue and compromise first. The new Luddites, too, seek dialogue and compromise. Most realize AI is here to stay, and they demand not a reversal, but an altogether more reasonable and fair approach to its adaptation. And it's easy to see how they might be more successful than their 19th century counterparts. The apocryphal Ned Ludd did not have social media. Downtrodden workers used to be easier to ignore. The internet is the greatest tool for organization in history, which is also, some people like to get mad at the internet or the existence of the internet and say the internet was a mistake. And while the internet opened up a lot of other problems, I do think it's a Pandora's box that has been worth having, because I think I found some of my most meaningful I shouldn't say I think, I have found some of my most meaningful relationships, and I get to talk to different kinds of people. And we also get to have more opportunity to information search for ourselves, more opportunity to be independent artists and to create our own way and not have to follow the lines of what is decided as, you will say this as somebody if you want to be in the industry. You will act this way if you want to be in the industry. You will hold these political beliefs if you want to be in the industry. And we have more of a chance to actually be more independent in general. And so I think that the internet has been worth it to allow us to do that. Now, it's come with other things that obviously every benefit will have a cost, and we have to mitigate the cost. We have to work on how to go around it. But I think that it has been overall worth it. And I honestly look forward to anything else that I might find in the future. But I'm glad that I can write the stories that I want to write, and to share my opinions, and to talk about books, and to talk about this stuff, and to not necessarily have to worry about anything other than somebody calling me stupid in the comments, because I step up here. I'm the idiot. It's fine. Okay, I'm here with you. Anger at AI companies is leading to some unlikely alliances. When the Recording Industry Association of America recently sued 2 AI music generation companies for copyright infringement on almost imaginable scale, musicians and fans took to the internet to voice their support. Amazing. AI companies have me rooting for the damn record labels, said one composer. Old arguments are being set aside as the new threat of AI is addressed. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, as they say. Some will have you believe that AI is all opportunity, all upside, to the next great technological revolution that will free humanity from the dark ages that we're living through, the dark ages of using a pencil and having to learn how to work for yourself, to express yourself through thought. Look, that's marketing, baby. If you don't recognize that's marketing, I got a bridge to sell you. It's a magical bridge. You can't see it. Like, you have to have a high spiritual level to see it. Speakers at the Tony Blair Institute Future of Britain Summit, held a few weeks ago, outlined why building strength in AI is the only option for forward-looking British government. There is some truth in this. AI does, of course, hold promise. That promise is mostly an article of faith right now, with AI leaders promising technology that are years away at best, unrealistic at worst. But there is a reason to think that for some reason realism is more optimistic prediction around AI. It may, as the AI visionary would have you believe, truly change the world. The backlash, though, points out that we cannot ignore real harm today in order to take technological gambles in the future. This is why companies such as Nintendo have said that they will not use generative AI. It is why users at Stack Overflow and Q&A websites for software engineers rebelled en masse after the platform struck a deal with OpenAI to scrub its content to train its models. Users deleted their posts or edited them to fill them with nonsense. It is why people have started attacking driverless taxis on the streets of San Francisco, shouting that they are putting humans out of work. There is often a group of protesters outside of the office of OpenAI in San Francisco holding Pause AI banners. This sentiment will only grow if AI is left unregulated. It may be tempting for countries to treat AI developments as an arms race to rush ahead irrespective of the cost. But polls show the general public thinks it's a bad idea. AI developers and the people regulating the nascent AI industry must listen to the growing AI backlash. I mean, if you make all of the customers angry that they don't want your product, what are you gonna do? Like, you're rushing to have this arms race to shove it into everything. I buy old used phones. That's all I can say. What you gonna do? This article comes back to AI is actually making workers less productive, where it says generative AI tools that are poised to eliminate time-consuming tasks, leading to major boosts in workplace productivity, have yet to make good on that promise. In fact, right now, they are doing the opposite, giving employees more work to do and contributing to burnout. Almost 80%. There's also the fact contributing to burnout. I'm not surprised if that's also part of, like, they fire people because they think generative AI will make up for human interaction and the human eye, and then it doesn't. And so then the few employees you have left have to cover for the workload that belonged to the other person that you fired. Almost 80% of workers who use generative AI in their jobs said that it has added to their workload and is hampering their productivity. An Upwork survey among over 2,500 full-time workers, freelancers, and executives found. Workers say they're spending more time reviewing or moderating AI-generated content and investing more of their time in learning how to use the tools, and their experiences are far apart from the perceptions of their employers. Some 96% of executives expect AI tools to boost productivity, while about 40% say that they don't know how that it'll happen, the Upwork survey found. So being somebody that has, one, learned an art form, and then two, is a critique, or does critiques, I should say, is a critique. That's so I can do a hair flip at the end of the word. Or who edits, because like more recently I worked with Monty in doing the epilogue for Bodymore Zero, and having worked with other people to give feedback and to polish work and also to receive feedback on my own work and implement it in, and also to observe it in other people's work when I read so that I can see, oh, that's what people mean, and then implementing what I like into my work. I understand how adaptive learning works for the human brain, and it is not something that these programs can do. I can give Monty feedback on a story. She can give me her story, I give her feedback, and then she can look thoughtfully at my messages or my comments and then figure out how to problem solve. And her problem solving in this document and the flow of the story, how she deals with characters, how she deals with plot, whatever, is going to carry into the way that she thinks as she moves into the next project and has to think of it on the next scale. And it will continue to carry over until it becomes second nature, because you are constantly actually understanding the decisions you are making, the things that you are going to apply into your story to make it work, and why you are doing them. And kind of like as it goes with why I do what I do, I want to understand why people do what they do. I look at stories and see, why is this happening? What is this going to lead to? And the same thing happens in these trainings with these computer things. As they go, they don't ask, why do I do this? They just look at the precedents. It is the law. We're the psychology. That is the difference. That's why it doesn't work. You have to watch We Need to Talk About Kevin if you want to know what that reference is. But like, TLDR, the law is prescriptive. The psychology is descriptive. And so, as the law looks at precedents in order to present an answer, psychology adjusts to the scientific method and new information, and you keep learning why. So that's what the thing is here, is humans adjust to new information, and then as that human learns, they get better and it gets easier. There was recently a video game company, I don't remember who it was, I posted it in the chat, and they were asked how they continually put out high quality games at such a fast rate, and they're like, because we hire people and they learn how to make the games and we keep them on, and then we just keep making great games because we got people that know what they're doing and they learn and we're good. And that doesn't happen if you constantly ask people, don't let them learn, and then replace them with things that don't know what the frick they're doing. Anyway, accordingly, employers will need to adjust their expectations and approach to effectively integrate new technology and see some ROI, though it will likely be less than they were hoping for. You're not replacing your people with AI and getting good results. What's happening is that this hype bubble is just huge, and it's disproportionate to the actual impact the technology can have right now, especially with the way that it's being deployed. That is successful marketing, but it did oversell what it can do. Naturally, sorry, I see that this is cut off slightly. I apologize. I strongly apologize. Naturally, there are examples of companies that have found generative AI is genuinely saving time for workers. There are some extremely specific cases where generative AI really has a massive impact, like the legal field, where during discovery, AI tools can help lawyers research and analyze existing case law and summarize huge amounts of information, she said. But how do you know that those aren't made up if fiction is inserted into the case law? That's into the generative AI searches. That's the question. In other cases, Gen AI-powered chatbots can significantly speed up the time it takes for staff to learn how to operate a new software, complete a new task, or save HR leaders time by answering employee questions and virtually directing them to resources. But in all cases, A human is still needed to review and validate the output. The review process can be time consuming itself, and neglecting to do so carries varying levels of risk. You mean like with the directing to resources, you mean like you can just create the learning manual so people can read the learning? I've created learning materials before for an entire automation department. It had FAQs at the end. It was the same thing. A lot of your large language models operate at best when humans are in the loop, and when this human is judgmental and when the human judgment and oversight. And that's just the reality of where we are with this technology. In order to really capture the productivity gains, we actually have to take a big step back and say what business problems are we solving? How do I rethink the way that I am doing my job in order to achieve that? How does this tool help? And I'm not sure that the broader AI strategy in workforce development has taken place yet in organizations. Something else that we were talking about in one of my circles is when automation manages all of the money and you have no human person looking at the money processing, that is your entire company's finances waiting to go down the drain. And I don't think you want to replace the human hand in money processing entirely. Employers can better support staff by holding focus groups to determine exactly what barriers they are facing. If it's a priority that your workplace experiment with and learn how to use generative AI, make sure that you have real cases for what you want them to be doing. Though I should say my workplace, I should say that we were talking about automation and not generative AI, because yeah, no. And then here, it's just waiting for somebody to feed a code into the generative AI stuff so that it reroutes your private information from whatever. And it's, oh my gosh, what a nightmare. In the near future, McCraw believes employers will soon start teaching staff to spot AI hallucinations the same way that they do with phishing. It's, oh no. And through information and through information skepticism training. It's unreliable for anything. Then they will learn how to spot cues to be more skeptical of the output or any AI-generated content with it's just labeling. Everybody is like, look, we can't trust this anymore. This also goes into futurism. Investors are suddenly getting very concerned that AI isn't making any serious money. It's been a money drain for a while. We sense that Wall Street is growing increasingly skeptical. I think it was in my last video on this that I mentioned how Goldman Sachs was pretty much pulling their support of the generative AI stuff. And it's like, if Goldman Sachs is pulling on you, probably not going to last too much longer. We also have this article from The Information. The true value, OpenAI can lose as much as $5 billion this year, we estimate, suggesting that it will need to raise money again soon, or, people might give up on it. A very important test for Buffett and Munger is determining the strength of a brand-based moat is whether the competitors can replicate or weaken the moat with a massive checkbox. As just one example, here is what Buffett said about Coke in 2012 Berkshire meeting. If you gave me $10, if you gave me 10, 20, 30 billion to knock off Coca-Cola, I couldn't do it. We got more reports. This one is Goldman Sachs saying generative AI, too much spent, too little benefit. Like I just said, even Goldman Sachs is pulling out. I will leave this for you to read on your own. But Corey Brickley here has brought some key quotes that we're going to look at, which AI will automate less than 5% of tasks in the next decade, contributing to a meager 0.9 to GDP growth. Cavello goes even further, arguing that the current AI tech isn't equipped to solve complex problems cost effectively, at least not one worth investing $1 trillion in. I feel sorry for the AI bros that have to look at this as them thinking for them and or doing work for them. I'm sorry, but I think that you would just be better trying on your own. AI bulls seem to just trust that use cases will proliferate as the technology evolves. But 18 months after the introduction of generative AI to the world, not one truly transformative, let alone cost-effective application has been found. It's just like a niche product to throw in everything, where like everybody was throwing in non-vegan. Speaking of which, from a WSU Insider, using the term artificial intelligence in product descriptions reduces purchase intention. Now, I can't speak for anybody else. I know if I see AI in anything, automatic no. And if I see AI in the name on Twitter, on Instagram, automatic block. I've had people submit books to the Fresh Meat feature that have generative AI covers. Deleted. It's not happening. I'm sorry, it's not. And so if other people are like this, the only people that I can see, and I've said this in other videos before, the only people that benefit from the generative AI are the people selling it or the people that want to use it to sell something. But general consumers, what do they gain out of the non-human touch? I even know people that are pissed off enough with the self-checkouts because they want a person to talk to. Now, I live in Florida, and the Publixes that I go to, there are no self-checkouts. They're all like, here, have at least 2 people talking to you at all times. But I know that that's a thing. So like, what is anybody getting from these? It doesn't serve the consumer. It serves the shareholder. Generative AI specifically is a mark of theft, lack of ethics in a company, and a desire to only benefit the shareholder and the company, not the customer. They're like, you won't notice if we cut your flour with dirt. Companies may unintentionally hurt their sales by including the words artificial intelligence when describing their offerings that use the technology, according to a study led by Washington State University researchers. In the study published in the Journal of Hospitality Marketing and Management, researchers conducted the experimental surveys with more than 1,000 adults in the U.S. to evaluate the relationship between AI disclosure and consumer behaviors. The findings consistently showed products described as using artificial intelligence were less popular, according to Musset Sisek, clinical assistant professor of marketing and lead author of the study. When AI mentions, it tends to lower the emotional trust, which in turn decreases purchase intention. We found emotional trust plays a critical role in how a consumer perceives AI-powered products. In the experiments, the researchers conclude questions and descriptions across the diverse products and service categories. For example, in one experiment, participants were presented with identical descriptions of smart televisions, and the only difference being the term artificial intelligence, which included for one group and omitted for the other. The group that saw the AI included in the product description indicated they were less likely to buy the television. Researchers also have discovered that negative response to AI disclosure was even stronger for high-risk products and services, those which people commonly feel more uncertain or anxious about buying, such as expensive electronics, medical devices, or financial services. Because failure carries more potential risk, which may include monetary loss and danger to physical safety. Mentioning AI for these types of descriptions may make consumers more wary and less likely to purchase, according to Sisek. We tested the effect across 8 different products and service categories, and the results were all the same. It's a disadvantage to include these kinds of terms in a product description. So again, if anybody tells you that customers want this, by and large, I see that customers don't. Marketers should be careful considering how they present AI in their product descriptions and develop strategies to increase trust. I would say increasing trust with consumers would not be to include generative AI and then omit that it's in your product, because that's just going to create more distrust. I'm not going to lie. Emphasizing AI may not always be beneficial, particularly for high-risk products, but don't hide it. That's questionable. Focus on describing the features or benefits and avoid AI buzzwords, he said. In addition to Sisek, the study included co-authors Dogan Gursey, professor of hospitality at WSU, and Lulu, associate professor at Temple University Fox Business School. And then finally, gonna just mention this briefly, Argentina will use AI to predict future crimes, but experts worry for citizens' rights. As if we didn't see this coming. They wanted that Minority Report going on, and it's only more funny because, again, like I say it again, this may be the first video you've watched from me, but the Book of Fear, the Gift of Fear, also mentioned, of course it was written by a Fed, and the Fed is like, we're going to read which genealogy means that somebody is more likely to commit a crime, and then we're going to stop them before they commit a crime because we're going to read their genes for crime committing. Of course a Fed would write that, am I right? But like, it's a gamble. Like, everything says that it's unreliable. It's a gamble. Go back to the earlier tweet on this that says, if you want consistency, traditional mediums are where you want to go, because generative AI is random. And now they want to use it to predict crime. It can't do that. It's insane. And it is going to violate people. This is also, if they are going to do it before you commit a crime, you don't know if somebody is going to, there are signs, sure, for some things, but you also can't, I mean, it's Argentina, so maybe you can, but it's like in America, you can't arrest somebody for a crime they haven't committed yet. I mean, there's technically conspiracy in some things, but please, go easy on me, okay? In most cases, okay, if somebody hasn't committed a crime yet, if there's no proof that they're imminently going to commit a crime, because usually conspiracy means imminent proof that a crime is going to be committed. I don't know how this would help you with that, though. This would be even before the imminent proof of committing a crime. Anyway, those are the articles. How do you feel about using generative AI to guess whether you're going to commit a crime? Imagine you are an artist, obviously. Many of us are over here, of some kind, especially you authors. How comfortable do you feel that a generative AI would not assume that you're going to go and commit a crime based on your search history? I rest my case. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below on any and all of the subjects from today, whatever you feel like talking about. Looking forward to your thoughts. With that said, have a great weekend and don't die.
The only people who should come are those who want to meet their monsters.
If this is what Agatha wants, I don't know how we can even dispute it.
I change lives, baby.
And I end them. Sweetheart, no bargains hold. Only fools know restraint.
Only losers lose!
I've been under the knife so many times, I'm practically immune to it.
If your scissors are dull, may I recommend sharpening them with leather?
I think I hit you.
Mimal says I must have a guardian angel.
To enter the ring but abstain from playing is suicidal. Your virtue makes you nothing but a liability.
You're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're gonna die.